so you live near Raleigh-ish, and is that where Human Coalition, is that where?
We're based in Dallas,
You're
actually.
based in Dallas, okay.
Yeah, but I live in the Triangle area. I'm on the outside of it, close to Durham and Chapel Hill.
Okay, but I assume that they have a Raleigh office.
We have a clinic in Raleigh and a clinic in Charlotte.
Yeah. So Connor,
wait, which Dallas are you based out of?
Texas.
Okay, I want to make sure. There's a Dallas North or South Carolina?
North Carolina.
Yeah, it's Dallas, North Carolina.
So I wanted to make sure. I was like, well, I mean, we are talking about North Carolina cities here.
True,
It would make sense.
Yeah, we're a national organization, active in around 16 states now.
It's a good amount of states.
16 to 18. It changes. We're growing really fast.
Yeah.
So, but I handle strategic partnerships for the Southeast.
Okay. Yeah, I think we were telling you this beforehand. The reason how we found you is I have a panda obsession that Connor's very aware of.
That's what Eden told me. That's the reason you got the panda sticker.
No, and so I know I saw that in the bag.
I only had one, so I was like,
it was destiny.
It was made for on your bag.
Yay! I'm so excited.
The students took them all from our table.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
So you got my one panda sticker.
Yay! But she got me that shirt. And then I ended up reaching out, and then obviously we podcasted. Neat. So we now are in contact with you, and that's how we first discovered Human Coalition. I mean, you said that it's growing pretty fast, though.
Mm-hmm. Yep, more and more women need our help.
Yeah.
And we want to be there for them as much as we possibly can.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. You said 16 states. I'm going to assume you guys are probably in California?
We do have some partners in California.
Okay. Okay. Because we went to now Connor, I don't think you were there, which was sad, but you guys do have a really nice clinic in Charlotte.
Yes. Did you come?
I did. I got to go. And this may sound really horrible. When I think of clinic, I just kind of always think of very
sterile.
The doctor.
Yeah. But when I went into there, it was not at all like that. It was very warm and welcoming. It was just so nice. But I was like, dang, I wish I wish my doctor's office was like this. Right. But it was really nice. You guys have done a good job with that one. I can't speak for the other 15 states.
They all have the same decor, the clinics that we operate.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Because we, in serving women who are facing unexpected pregnancies, this is a very complex situation. Right. It's difficult. And so we want her to feel as comfortable and loved and welcome as possible.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, that's good. And I know you kind of briefly said a little bit about Human Coalition, but because we've heard about a lot of different organizations, the biggest one is Live Action. I feel like even leftists know about Live Action.
We love Live Action. Yeah.
But what more specifically does Human Coalition do compared to other organizations that are out there?
Right. Well, we're the largest pro-woman, pro-life organization in the nation. And so what we do, in a nutshell, is we reach women online while they are searching for an abortion clinic.
Okay.
So our client is someone who is headed that direction. And so we reach her through direct marketing. And when she calls us, she's immediately brought into a life-affirming, compassionate system of care where she's offered help and resources. If it's in an area where we operate our own clinic, she comes in and she sees our nurses. And if it's an area where we have a partner pregnancy resource clinic, she'll go in there. And what's really neat is in addition to a traditional pregnancy resource center model where we have an ultrasound, of course, confirm her pregnancy, have compassionate counseling and information, we also have a really neat thing called our Continuum of Care program. And that is run by licensed social workers who are immediately talking to her about, are you safe? Do you have a place to live? Yeah. What can we help you with right now, today, that is potentially driving you to this decision?
Right. I care about you enough to bring that mic.
Go for it.
People got to hear what you're saying.
Go for
here.
it. Awesome. That sounds great.
Because there's a specific part in there that I'm particularly interested in, and it's the continuing care.
Yes.
That was the thing when I learned about you guys. That was like, well, that's very interesting because I feel like the left makes this argument a lot. And I think, to be honest, I think there's some merit to it to an extent where it's not good merit to kill a kid. That's not really, but they're bringing up an interesting point of like, well, okay, you have them, they get to save their kid. Great. What are you going to do for them after that? And so that was something that I thought was very interesting. So if you want to delve into that a little bit.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah. We want to tear down that narrative because basically, you know, the abortion industry is telling her one thing, and that is you can't do this. You can't have this child and have, I don't know, name it, your career, finish your education, a family, your hopes and dreams, and all of those things. Basically, they're telling women, you know, that you really need to have the right to take the life of your own child in order to fully participate in society. We could have an entire conversation about how anti-woman that is. Okay, so our belief is that we should empower women and give them the resources that they need over the long term. So our goal, I talked about reaching her online, and then through this process, we'll rescue her child, prayerfully rescue her child through offering her these support and resources, and then restore her to a place of financial health, spiritual health, you know, restore her to a place of independence where she is empowered to do this. Here's an interesting statistic, and one that, you know, if you remember nothing else from this, 76% of the women that we see, now remember the women that we see are abortion determined, would prefer to parent if their circumstances were different. So think about that. I don't have a place to live. I'm worried I can't pay the rent. I don't have transportation. I don't have child care. I don't have support. You know, single moms, I think, remain one of the most misunderstood segments of our society. These women are courageous. It's tough to be a single mom. And so for us to say, and that's not, you know, all of our clients are not single. Some do have a partner. Some are married. But in many cases, we have someone who's looking at supporting this child and potentially is already supporting others on her own. So it's our duty to be there for her and to walk alongside her in this process, to lift her up, to say, you can do this and we're going to be with you. And, you know, this past November, Human Coalition celebrated a huge milestone. We were founded in 2009, and this past November, we crossed the milestone of rescuing 25,000 children.
That's awesome.
Through this model of helping their moms.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Is.
It's exciting.
It is. It's definitely something to celebrate.
So when you say walk alongside, you know, pretty vague in terms, what does that practically look like?
Any number of things. Okay. So it's not just the things I mentioned before. Our social workers, our continuum of care professionals, it's a casework model. Okay, where she is assigned to one continuum of care professional, a licensed social worker. And every mom is different. You know, it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. So it could be calling local nonprofits and churches for help with housing. That is the number one need right now. You ask anyone who's caring for women facing unexpected pregnancies, the need for housing or feeling insecure in housing is the number one need.
Okay.
Childcare is huge. Who is going to watch this child if I have this baby? There's no one in my family I would trust him with. Okay. Transportation. How am I going to get back and forth to work? We have employment specialists that actually help her with her resume. Let's look at your strengths. Let's look at your needs. Let's get you signed up for your GED class. Let's make sure you have health care. You know, like there's a lot of forms that need to be filled out for this sort of thing. We'll walk alongside them through that entire process. So the logistics of getting on her feet. We also have a volunteer network. We'll do things, baby showers. We'll give her a basket of items that she needs, car seats, you know, pack and plays, all that kind of thing. Babies are expensive and they require a lot of stuff. So we'll help along those lines. We'll connect her to a church community if she desires that. And we think that's, a very crucial part of what we do is partnering with local nonprofits and churches, really in many ways to bring the pieces together. Because when you're in crisis, particularly if you have suffered some sort of trauma, you need someone to come alongside you and help you with these things. And it's our honor to do that for her.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So you said 25,000 kids. Does that mean there's 25,000 kids or families that you're still working with currently and ongoing? Or is there a point where services do kind of end?
Our continuum of care program is designed to last 3 years with the goal of complete independence. But anytime someone reaches out to us, they have our phone number, and it's our privilege to be there with them.
Yeah, but you're trying to, like you said, you're trying to get them independent.
That's
trying
the
to
goal.
Get them to
That's
kind
the goal.
of, what's the phrase? You give a man a fish, eats for a day.
Right.
Teach him how to fish.
Exactly.
Eats for life. And
exactly.
That's kind of the idea.
It's really neat, though. We've stayed in touch with families. And so to be able to just hear from moms down the road, you have a little girl now who's going into middle school. It's really neat. A mom sent us a 5th grade school picture recently. And, it's just really neat to hear those stories and to hear the mom stories. And many of those can be found on our website at humancoalition.org. There's lots of client stories and moms telling their own stories about their experiences with us.
No, that's really cool. And I think we kind of want to circle back to the more of the practical needs of these moms. But I think a lot of that is going to stem from a much not bigger issue, but a bigger event. Which was the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Right. We did an episode on it. I actually wasn't even in studio. Connor did it because we had to get something out so fast. Yeah. And he took on that episode, and we were so
surprised.
Yeah, surprised. Mm-hmm. That would be the word, because we just never thought that this would happen in our lifetime. We never thought
it also felt really sudden too.
Yeah, it did a little bit, but maybe it's because we just weren't paying attention. I don't know.
It's possible, but it was just like, one day it's legal and the next day there's a leak from the justices that they're going to overturn it. And you're
definitely sudden. Yeah. So the progression of events, I was actually in DC in early December of 2021 when they did the hearing. It was really interesting. We were standing outside the Supreme Court, and they had this little barricade, and they had, they separated the two sides, and but you could hear the hearing over loudspeakers, and it was fascinating. I'm not an attorney, but our national legislative director is, thank God. So I'm standing next to her, wanting the expert legal opinion.
It's like, what's happening?
And everyone seemed to agree, even the other side reluctantly, that the way the hearing went then, this is definitely a possibility. Yeah. And then when the leak came out, that was a huge surprise.
Right. And it's never happened before, right?
Yeah, and then, no. And then they still haven't gotten to the bottom of that. But then those of us who do this full time, definitely we're on the SCOTUS blog, Twitter feed every decision day, and you're clicking refresh, and it got to the point by June 24th, you're like, okay, well, there's not much left. What are we going to do here? Right. And I remember we were actually on our prayer. Our staff was praying together that morning. And we hadn't started praying yet. I promise I was not clicking refresh on the Twitter feed. We were praying. We were talking about prayer requests and everything. And then it came through. And, the Constitution does not confer a right to abortion. And it was surreal. It was surreal. And so, it took a while, I think, for all of us to let it sink in what the consequences would be of this. Because really what it did is it shifted the decision to the states. So all of a sudden, we had, in many ways, 51 battlefields, I guess you could say, because we're still certainly advocating for life-saving legislation on Capitol Hill. So you have all these different states to keep up with. and what they're doing and how they're responding.
We can't keep up with them, so we're hoping that you could and that you would let us know what's going on, because just kind of give us the landscape of what's going on here, because Roe v. Wade, like you said, I think I learned more about Roe v. Wade in 2021. Was it 2021? Did it get overturned 2021 or 2022?
It was June 24th of 2022.
That's what I thought. Okay, because you said December 2021, and then my head
went. That was the hearing.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Of course, I knew that. I knew that, guys. I knew that. Okay, so 2022, this happens, and then suddenly, like you said, tons of battlegrounds, but not just battlegrounds, also looking at what states were allowing abortion, up to what time, where are the clinics located, and where are these states located next to more pro-life states.
Exactly.
So kind of give it to us. Give us the overview here.
In many ways, that's kind of like a moving target, because anything could change even tomorrow. But the truth of the matter is, right now, still, about 3/4 of all states still allow for abortions in nearly all cases. And so that's the unfortunate truth. But the good news is that 12 states now protect children in the womb at all stages of pregnancy.
What states would those be?
All 12 of them, I don't have written
down. That's okay. Like the ones,
Tennessee,
yeah.
Tennessee, Texas, Oklahoma. Those are ones that have done life at conception acts. Okay, and so that's all stages of pregnancy. Then you have states like Georgia, which has a heartbeat bill in effect. Okay, so that would be at the time that the baby's heartbeat can be detected, which is usually around 6 weeks. And then you've got 12 states that restrict at various times between 15 and 24 weeks. Like the state where we're located right now in North Carolina, abortion is legal up until 20 weeks. And that will not change unless our state legislature decides to change it. 25 states allow, including and the District of Columbia, allow abortion through all or most of pregnancy. And so we're talking
really
all 9 months. And so, for any reason. And that is actually the belief and the platform of the pro-abortion movement. I mean, they push against any restrictions on abortion whatsoever. And so that has created a situation where some states have become abortion destinations, either through geography, such as you have a state that, let's say, like North Carolina allows abortion up to 20 weeks, but then you have Georgia, which has a ban. Georgia has a heartbeat, Tennessee has a ban, so all of a sudden we have a big increase in the number of women seeking abortion here. Or you could have a state like New York or California. They haven't become a destination necessarily because of geography, it's because of choice. They want to be abortion destinations. That's their choice. They've set themselves up that way. California has actually spent up to $20 million to welcome women from other states into their state who are seeking abortion. Oregon has instituted a $15 million reproductive health equity fund, is what they're calling it. New York is spending $35 million to increase abortion services and invest in safety at their clinics. So this is our landscape right now. We look at the United States of America.
Yeah.
And you have some states that have reacted one way, and then you have others that are completely on the other side of the pendulum, and then some in between. But that decision is closer to the people than it's ever been.
Yeah.
And philosophically, on a number of levels, that is something that we want, that we agree with. But we also are very realistic and admit that in some cases, that's not going to work out in the favor of our preborn children.
Right. Because I think it just depends. It depends on the state. But here's the thing that I think boggles my mind, and I don't know what your thoughts would be on this, where I feel like the states like California, New York, those are the ones that make the rounds in the news the most when it comes to abortion. And it's because they're so radical. Like California, they'll let you kill the kid outside the womb, if it makes it out alive. It's really scary stuff.
Is that currently?
I believe so, yeah. I'm trying to remember.
It's actually the case in many states.
which is
unfortunately, that have not been able to pass Born Alive legislation, which, by the way, was just voted on again in the United States House of Representatives a few weeks ago.
Wow. And where did that land?
Well, the Republicans have control of the House, and so, of course, that passed. But every single Democrat member of the House voted against that legislation.
That's crazy.
And, it's just indicative of a lack of, we just don't value the preborn. And so we go down to a very deep level. If you really want to think about it, where does value begin? Okay, does it begin when the heart beats? Does it begin at conception? Embryology, the science of embryology shows us that we have a distinct, living, precious human being from the moment of conception. And the question is, a lot of people are talking about abortion bans. Okay, when is this state or that state going to ban abortion? I say we flip that. We ask ourselves a question. When is that state going to start protecting preborn children in their state? Think of it that way. When is that state government going to act to protect? See what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah? That's what we're really thinking about here. But, in addition to some of these more extreme states that are allowing abortion for any reason up until the point of birth, we also see a very frightening reduction of regulations, particularly around the chemical abortion pill, which is very dangerous.
Yeah, actually, I'd love for you to actually talk to us a little bit about that.
I will definitely talk to you about that. The chemical abortions account for over 50% of abortions right now, but it's rising quickly. Okay, so we're looking at that going up and up and up.
Is it because of what happened with Roe v. Wade, or is it just rising in general because of its accessibility, or?
It's the accessibility,
okay?
Which in many cases, states are lessening restrictions. And also a lot of that goes back to the Biden administration. So all of a sudden, the FDA's changed regulations on these pills that have been in place for years, such as, this needs to only be used after a certain weeks of gestation, and here's the rules around it, and you need to confirm the date of gestation before you give these pills. They're very dangerous. They're always dangerous for the preborn child, but they're also dangerous for women. And so now, reducing these restrictions, we actually have situations in New York and I believe California also, where they're being dispensed from student health centers on university campuses. You probably heard it hit the news that they're going to be dispensed in many states from CVS.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Okay, this is not Tylenol.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that.
This is a dangerous situation that is actually more dangerous than a surgical abortion. Now, reminding everyone that every abortion results in ending the life of a precious preborn baby. But the lack of concern for the health and safety of women is absolutely mind-boggling. When you think about what happens, many women report severe pain. There's hemorrhaging. I won't go into all of the gory details, but you think about women being able to access these pills in some states, but through mail order. Mm-hmm. They don't even know where it came from. They don't even know if it's a real pill. And then they really are just, it's anybody's best guess what their gestation is. A lot of times women get that wrong.
No, that's true. Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't know. I think my last period was hit then, but I don't really remember.
Right.
So we're guessing the gestational age. And then you're talking about women in college who are living in group situations. I don't know what your college situation was like.
I lived at home.
You lived
with
at
my
home,
dog.
okay. Well, now a lot of universities have kind of nicer situations, but back in my day, and I believe in plenty of universities now, we had like that typical hall full of students, and then everybody shared a bathroom at the end of the hall. She doesn't even have a private bathroom to go through this in. It's dangerous. It's painful. This is just, it's not an easy situation.
Right.
And, but the abortion industry has one goal, and that is to increase the accessibility of abortion as much as possible with disregard for the health and safety of women. So we're very concerned about where this will go. One of our partners, Students for Life, has been talking quite a bit about the environmental impact
That's interesting.
Having human waste.
Well, I guess might be asking a stupid question. Where is it going?
Into our water and sewer system.
Yeah, it would be a similar issue to what all of the birth control pills have done to the water system.
Oh, really?
Anything that we put into the water system. And so, it's gruesome to think about. It's tough to think about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so at this point, I would just like to pause in case anyone is listening to this who has a personal story with abortion. Okay. And to say that we have nothing but love and compassion for you and what you have gone through. It's a very, very painful experience. And, we are a faith-based organization. I'm a person of faith, and I always take an opportunity, no matter where I'm on some airwaves, to remind people that if you have had an abortion, God's grace is greater than any of our sin. And he is there for you, and he will forgive you. None of us are perfect. All of us have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, but his grace and his redemption are there. And there is healing to be found. And there's some amazing organizations. I recently got to know the leaders of an organization called Save One that have post-abortive healing groups. And it's pretty amazing to see the journey that many courageous people have taken to healing after this procedure.
Yeah. No, that's great. I appreciate you. I appreciate you putting that out there, because I know that sometimes what can happen with the right, and it happens more on the right, is that they kind of look at abortion as very logical, and here's when the heartbeat is, and here's when the hands and toes, all very important stuff, by the way, very important. But I think sometimes it's all logic, and there really is no acknowledgement of any sort of emotion or the practical of what's going on. Mm-hmm. So,
the mom behind all of this. There's a story, and it's not just her. There's a dad. So many times I've ended up talking to men who still are hurting 20, 30, in one case recently 40 years after driving a girlfriend to have an abortion or paying for an abortion, and being able to remind him of the graces that can be found is pretty special. And so, abortion has personally impacted over a quarter of our nation by this point. No matter who you're talking to, any group, you're talking to people who have experienced this. But we have a God who is greater and full of grace. And also, one last thing before we move on, if anyone in the sound of my voice is facing an unexpected pregnancy, I would send you to optionline.org. And that is a website where you can type in your zip code and pull up pregnancy resources that are available to you.
That's great.
Nationwide.
Nice. And we'll also put that in the description as well.
Awesome.
I had something, but I think it can wait a little bit. Connor, do you have anything?
Yeah, maybe a little bit more of a difficult question. I guess we'll see. But I remember talking with friends, and we were trying to figure out what the best way was to frame the idea of abortions. And currently, I mean, especially on the right, it's stop abortions. But maybe that's putting a Band-Aid over a larger symptom, which is that the left dehumanized infants.
Right.
That are preborn. So it might be a better goal to go about humanizing. So I wanted to ask you about how people might be able to go about that, because we can go through the weekly, what the baby looks like every week along the way. Right. And that still doesn't seem to have the effect that you would think it would. But in a similar narrative, I heard you mention that instead of thinking about which states are going to be pro-abortion, it's which ones are going to be saving lives. And I'm kind of curious, how does that change the methodology for how your organization tackles those issues in states? Because to me, the methods would probably stay the same. I mean, maybe it's a positive and happier outlook on things, but how does that really impact what you guys do?
Well, here's the thing. Every year, 1 million women seek abortion in the United States of America. Okay? The reasons why they are seeking abortion don't change. No law changes that. No law that either bans or doesn't ban abortion is going to change her situation, where in many cases, dire financial distress and circumstances are making her feel like she cannot parent this child, or just an overall narrative in our society that that female fertility is something to be managed rather than celebrated. That the male body is what is normal, and that the female body experiencing pregnancy is not. So we're not only talking about the very important issue of the worth and the dignity of that precious child, we're also talking about our society, which now treats pregnancy, unexpected pregnancy, as a problem to be, quote, solved. An abortion never solves anything. It is not a solution to a problem. So we've got to turn that on its head. But, Connor, what you were talking about, our little ones, it's interesting, from our perspective, we're there to address the reasons why she is seeking that abortion. And yes, we do have a policy arm, which is very active in supporting the Texas Heartbeat Bill and active in other states. Not only in supporting legislation that will protect as many preborn children as possible. That's what we're gonna advocate for. But also some really unique, innovative legislation. In a few states, we've run something called the Every Mother Matters Act. Emma,
heard of it?
Yep.
I have not.
Cool.
I have not.
Yeah. Which adds in it basically adds into her informed consent as she's seeking an abortion, that she calls a number and is offered resources. Because in so many cases, women feel like they're headed one direction and there's no other way that they can go. They don't know that they have options, and they don't know that there's people out there that will help them. In addition to our clinics and our partner clinics, there are almost 3,000 pregnancy resource centers in the United States of America. So they're in so many communities around these nations, and these are individuals that help women all day, every day with their real felt needs. And so we say we're going to be there with you rather than offer you this one so-called solution.
Do you know the ratio between clinics like yours that are helping women versus Planned Parenthood?
I do. I actually have it somewhere in my notes. Which
Yay! We love notes.
I'm embarrassingly looking at right now.
No, because I'm curious.
Here we go. Pro-life pregnancy centers and community-based health clinics outnumber Planned Parenthood facilities 14-1.
Now
that's more than double what I was thinking.
Now that's a clip right there. If we're gonna put anything out there, that's because here's my thing, and I was gonna play a little devil's advocate with you because I want to represent the left as best as I possibly can. I mean that, I really do. Like, take their arguments, all the things I've heard, because they're very loud. They're very, very loud.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and so I want to address their arguments seriously. One of the biggest arguments that I get from the left is they're like, well, they can't take care of this kid. They just can't do it. And, they're single and like, how are they supposed to get along with their lives? And like, there's no resources out there. And it's just not right. It's just not a good thing for them. And so we need to take care of the mom in this situation. Like, the mom is the most important thing. I even think I heard someone kind of almost make the implication, and well, they did make the implication that, a child that's born to a single mom is less valuable than a child that's born to a two-income, two-parent family. Basically saying, maybe if the kid had two parents, maybe that'd be okay if they were born.
Right.
But they don't, and so we need to think about the mom. What exactly would you say to that argument?
I would say that abortion, of course, ends the life of a preborn child, but abortion harms women too. Okay. We have decades now of experience in knowing that women have, in many cases, long-term physical and psychological impact from abortion. Again, it is sold as an easy fix. Okay, well, we'll take care of this. You'll be back at work the next day. It's no big deal. But women who have experienced abortion say otherwise. And the left tries to shut down these very courageous voices of post-abortive women who are like, So that was not my experience.
And I don't mean to interrupt you, but I do mean to interrupt you. That's why I did.
It's okay.
But I know this might be a little bit of a sensitive thing, but when you say that these women, what exactly with these abortions, what are they experiencing pain-wise, like in regards to physical pain? And then what is kind of overall the emotional pain, like from what you've gathered? I know it's a little graphic, but I want to ask the question because I kind of want to take that veil away a little bit.
Right.
If you're comfortable.
Well, having not experienced one myself, my report is from talking to women over the years, some personal friends of mine and some women that I've just met out in the community, church, whatever. And, much of it depends on the type of abortion that's done. With a surgical abortion, you have the cervix is softened, and then you have instruments that are put inside with varying degrees of anesthesia. And basically the baby, depending on the size of the baby and the gestation, is either suctioned out of the womb, or if the baby has grown too large, then they have to dismember the baby, and then they suction out the parts of the baby.
So like they literally they suction it.
Yes, it's like a vacuum type suction. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Unplanned by Abby Johnson, who was a former Planned Parenthood worker.
I've heard of her. I've not seen that movie.
And I think that they handle that scene in a way where you can get a sense of the trauma and get a sense of what's done without actually showing it.
Yeah.
With the chemical abortion, the at-home abortion, I guess you could say it's a two-step process. And so the first pill basically reduces the amount of progesterone in the body and makes the uterus very uninhabitable for the child. And then 2 or 3 days later, there's another pill that causes the child to be expelled. And so you're talking contractions. You're talking, women who typically have more painful menstrual periods have a much more painful time with this. Doubled over in pain on the bathroom floor. Hemorrhaging is a possibility. Everyone bleeds quite a bit. It's a difficult process, and with no follow-up medical care, you don't know if it's complete. The risk of infection is very, very real.
So hang on. So if I go to a Planned Parenthood and I say I want a chemical abortion, they give me these pills, and so I take that second pill, and I'm having some complications. Not bad enough to go to the ER, but I'm having complications. Could I just call the Planned Parenthood? Like, would they help? Like, I know you're not a Planned Parenthood worker, but
no.
What's the word on the ground? Like, do they actually help? Like,
I'm
if
sure there's
goes
a
wrong?
protocol there. But what we've heard from women is many cases they do seek follow-up care in emergency rooms.
Wow. Okay.
But again, the abortion industry fights regulation and reporting requirements everywhere we turn. And so we really don't know how many. We don't have an accurate number.
That's a big problem.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because we don't know really what is going on here. And in some states we would, and in some states we wouldn't. Other countries do a better job of reporting abortion complications and are a little further along than us in some of this, and do report a much higher rate of complications than we would be able to verify here, just because of the lack of reporting requirements and the accuracy required there.
Yeah, it seems a little sketchy to me, just a little sketchy.
Women deserve better. Here's the thing: women deserve better.
And here's what I'm thinking too. I hear all these different arguments, and to a certain extent, I hate to say it, but I think there's a level of they genuinely do care. It seems like they genuinely care about the mom in their ignorance. Is the key, because I think, they really do believe that if this woman gets an abortion, right, that her life will be better. Like, they really believe that. Right. They're like,
that she needs that in order to be able to fully participate in society, like we said earlier.
Right. And so, like, to a certain extent, some of the people that I see, I understand that they are coming from some level of compassion, but it's very, very ignorant. Because and this is the thing that the media does, is they don't like to talk about these stories about these women that get abortions, and regret it for emotional reasons. I mean, for obvious reasons. You don't need a study to know that if you abort your unborn child, that you're going to have some complications emotionally. But they won't talk about the stories where there's actual medical complications. So this stuff doesn't make it out to people, and they don't really have a good grasp of what an abortion actually means and what it actually looks like.
What it actually does. And also, women again, back to the pro-life movement being the pro-woman movement. How many times are women typically told still in our progressive society, well, you didn't really feel that. You didn't really experience that. Okay.
It happens every so often. Happens every so often.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she has an abortion and she's going through trauma and she needs follow-up care, follow-up psychological care. No. It's okay. We're going to suppress your post-abortive voice unless it fits our narrative. But the pro-life movement comes along and says, you know what? Let us love on you. Mm-hmm. Let us refer you, in our case, to several trusted post-abortive healing organizations that we have fully vetted, mm-hmm. that we partner with, in order to be able to walk with her through this process to a point of healing, because we love her too.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And so, we believe that her voice is important, and we want to hear her voice, and we want to help her every step of the way.
And you bring up a very interesting point, because you kind of talk about like the woman having emotions, and they kind of have to put that down. I think that, and this is just my opinion on it, Connor might have a different opinion on this, but I feel like this is part of the feminist movement of they want to be equal to men in every way. But the truth of the matter is that men and women are different. Women have emotions. Not that men don't have emotions. You have emotions, Connor.
Somewhere.
Your emotions are valid.
Somewhere there.
It's okay, Connor.
he has them down there. I know he has them.
He's doing a great job.
But that's the point, though, is that they're not the same. Like, women, there's a level of care and tenderness that women need, where in the feminist movement, it's like, no, we're the same as men. We can do the same thing. It's like, I hate to break it to you, but you can't. And there are things that are different.
We are different, and we do bear children. And, so basically what they're trying to do is saying that, think about it this way. When is a man told that he needs to choose between his career and the life of his child?
Well, I mean,
never.
Right, because women are different. Women are the ones
that's
bearing
our biology.
Yes.
Okay, so the message that you cannot have this child and have a career. You cannot have this child and be successful. Also, think about it this way. Now we have not only, I mentioned California and New York, come here, we're actually going to spend money to try to get you to come to our state to have an abortion. Now, over 60 major companies and corporations have actually offered to pay for abortions for their employees. So think about where that's going to go, okay? So if a woman with an unexpected pregnancy, probably under a certain age, is walking around the office visibly pregnant, what are people going to be thinking? Well, why didn't she take care of that? They would have given her $5,000 to go take care of this, okay? Also, think about it from an employer's perspective.
It's cheaper for them to get an abortion for the woman than to give her paid maternity leave.
Where do our conversations go about paid leave? Where do our conversations go about pregnancy discrimination in the workplace? You can't have it both ways.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right.
Yeah, that's one area that I've definitely been on board with the feminist movement is when they do want to be mothers, they're very persistent about wanting that maternal paid leave, and they want it to be more than 2 weeks.
Exactly. And that is something that, I believe slowly but surely starting to have some more conversations with conservatives along these lines, okay, who are realizing, that that's an important investment in the early age of a child's life. There was a speaker at the Students for Life conference that I attended on Sunday, really amazing young lady named Anna from the Clapham group, and she said that 1 in 4 women in the United States of America go back to work 7 to 10 days after childbirth. So the United States can do better than this.
For sure.
Well,
we certainly can.
I do know in Germany, apparently, you have to take, and don't 100% quote me, but it's crazy. It's almost 2 or 3 months before they give birth. And if they're caught, look it up, because I was actually talking to someone who's from there, who was telling me about this. And like, if you get caught, like if they find you in the workplace,
my goodness,
it's like a whole it's a whole situation.
It's a cultural thing.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is like pretty much with women in America. Do you have it there?
6 weeks before the birth and 8 weeks after.
Yeah. That's so again, it's about, you're looking about a couple months before the baby is born, and then afterwards. And then America, I mean, not that I'm even against it. I'm like, unless I have to be on bed rest, be like, I'll just keep working. Like, it's fine. It doesn't bother me. But that might be a cultural thing.
Well, and somebody has to pay. You know, in many of these cases, that's a government subsidy. But what are some things that we could do? Maybe tax credits, some sort of incentive for employers, some sort of make it easier to be able to access certain insurance plans for short-term disability. That's the only way I had any maternity leave almost 20 years ago. Was short-term disability. You know, it counted under that. You know, but what can we do to at least move the needle the right direction here, you know, and also to address the issues that our clients are facing, this housing crisis.
I was going to ask you about that, to get into that.
And, you know, it's interesting because this is something that, you know, conservatives, it's not like, oh, you know, let's sit down and talk about affordable housing. But I think we are starting to hear more of these conversations. And so that's a reason why it's important to have people in the public square who are serving these women and see these needs. We're very, very women focused in what we want to do. And so, you know, I believe that we can figure this out. I believe that collectively we are smart and we can figure out how to address these needs without adding new government programs, without taking away the rights of employers. Let's think innovatively. Let's think proactively. Let's think outside the box and work together as much as possible. And I know that people like to say that, and they don't really like to do it.
No, you make listen.
We need to do that.
Yeah.
Our citizens deserve that. And you know, we want to have those conversations, and you know, are ready to do that, in position to do that well.
Yeah, and you know, it's not just people, you know, not just public figures. I think it's honestly, and this is kind of something that the right, again, I like to call it the right too, where I think it matters. And I feel like sometimes people just post stuff. They just post stuff about being pro-life. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. You know, and granted, you can't be super actively involved in every issue.
Right.
It's very hard.
Right.
But what I am saying is, like, let me just play like this. If you are going to be so vocal about something, it would make sense that that vocalness is equally matched by action. I feel like that's a fair ask. I think it's a fair ask. And so I think if you are someone who says, I'm pro-life, and, you know, you're making a lot of noise about it, good. But match that with some action. And I think that sometimes where leftists get a little upset. Granted, the left does the same thing too. Yeah. But regardless, it's funny, the issues are on both sides. But I think this is a very valid point, where there's people like you who are doing a lot of amazing things, and there's tons of people that the left won't even acknowledge that's doing amazing things.
Oh, right.
They don't want to talk about like the amount of resources. Women. Yeah, the amount of resources was 14-1? Yeah, like that's insane. Like that's a ton of resources. The media won't cover that. The media won't talk about it.
No.
Yeah.
Well, and meanwhile, do you guys receive any money from the government?
Depends on the state.
Depends on the state.
Because it does depend. If it leans more conservative, I'm going to imagine that you're going to get more money.
Right. So 14 states have alternatives to abortion programs. And so these look differently. In some states, they'll use federal TANF funds.
Can you name a couple of the states?
Texas would be the most notable.
Of course, it's Texas. Of course.
They have the largest alternative to abortion program in the nation, I think to the tune of around a $120 million investment. And so that is all poured into resources for women facing unexpected pregnancy. North Carolina has a state-funded alternatives to abortion program now. So,
okay, a little surprised by that, I guess.
So that money can be used for our continuum of care program, the one that the social workers offering the resources to women and the support to women. And so, but in some states that'll never be. But we don't let that deter us. We can still go into a state. We can still reach women online while they're searching for abortion. And we can still provide them the care and the resources that we need. We'll just not do it with state funds.
Yeah.
Now, how do those state funds or even federal funds compare with what Planned Parenthood receives from the government? Because it seems the government has just picked an organization that's not government affiliated as far as I know, or they're government affiliated, but they are not government. And they have kind of declared them their champion for abortions, which gives them all sorts of publicity and funds that not everybody else has, even though you have 14-1.
It is truly mind-boggling. It is. And, you know, there is no comparison, I guess, in the funding. But when you think about the impact that we have, I think it's pretty amazing when you think about that. Yeah, it would be phenomenal for Planned Parenthood to not receive the millions and millions of dollars that they do. But it's all under the umbrella of so-called reproductive health, but the vast majority of what they do is abortions.
Yeah. I was going to say reproductive means that you're actually reproducing and then giving birth. I mean, this is the sad thing, and it's one of the hardest statements to say, like, a baby is going to come out of you. The question is it going to be alive, or is it's gonna be dead?
Well, you have two options, you know, when you're in that situation. Also, I'd like to point out, you know, that why don't we give more funds to the 5,300 federally qualified healthcare centers that we have in the United States? A lot of people don't know about these centers.
I didn't know about these centers.
Yeah, I learned about them when I worked for Congress and toured some. And these are healthcare centers that are usually either no cost or very, very low prorated costs. And they do the full gamut of pregnancy testing, STD testing, prenatal care.
That stuff is expensive too.
Don't do abortion.
Yeah.
So why not give funds to groups like that who are providing care for low-income women, but they don't do abortions?
It's not even like a politically affiliated thing. They're just providing care.
And lack of a very powerful lobby, I guess you could say. So that's just, you know, but at the end of the day, we can all do something, okay, to try to move that needle. Every single life is precious. Every single mom is precious. So there is something that everyone can do, you know, like you were saying, you know, who is pro-life. And it could be a small thing. It could be praying for people that are full-time in the pro-life movement.
Praying is a huge thing.
It's the biggest thing. Absolutely. There's a spiritual warfare around this. It's very real. It's very powerful. But we know that this is a battle we've already won. Okay. We're just called to fight in this moment. And, you know, it's a privilege to walk alongside her in any way that we can. And so, you know, people can donate to their local pregnancy resource center. They can advocate for good policies that support moms and pregnant women. In many cases, it's just a matter of being a compassionate listening ear. I've talked to so many women who were, you know, in a situation where they were considering abortion just because of difficult circumstances, and that one friend is like, you know what? Let's see if we can figure this out. You know, let's see if we can find some people that will help you. Be that friend.
Because maybe that's what that mom needs. You know, because what you said is true. They're getting the abortion really because of their circumstances, and they really just don't think that there's another way. There's another way out, and you have an entire media telling them there's not a way out. And then you have their family. What if you have that one friend that's just like kind of saying what they want to hear? They want to hear, you can do this. Like you can have this child, and let me lay out these resources for you to actually help you.
Exactly.
I think that in itself is very powerful.
Exactly. You could be the friend that goes to optionline.org. You know I mentioned that earlier for women facing unexpected pregnancy. Everyone write that down, you know, and have that handy for when you're having that conversation, you know. And the guys, too. You could be talking to your guy friend whose girlfriend is pregnant. You see what I'm talking about here?
Yeah, there's that's the things, like we can't just leave it up to organizations. Like, yes, organizations very important. What you guys do, incredibly important. But someone's got to get them there too. Exactly. And that's why you don't have to necessarily even be a part of these organizations, but almost being pro-life minded, and how you talk to someone who's pregnant considering an abortion. You know, I think that stuff is really important too. I see Connor's been pulling up something line about some revenue here.
There you go. See where you can
revenue,
type
but I also wanted to pull up option line here as well.
Yeah. So I did want to see.
This is the website you were talking about?
Yes. And so you can type in your zip code and It'll pop up. That's run by a group called Heartbeat International. It's good friends of ours.
Wow.
With a nationwide reach.
So I mean,
it's pretty special.
I mean, but look at this though. Like those are all incredibly close together.
Yeah.
Right.
And obviously, I know this is just one area, so it can vary. I understand that, but this is pretty good overall.
It's huge, and about 80%
Wow.
of pregnancy resource centers do ultrasounds. So your chances of finding someone that will be able to do an ultrasound. Pregnancy resource centers offer free ultrasounds. They do not charge for this service.
Right.
We use licensed sonographers, the whole 9 yards.
Can you look in California, Connor? Sacramento?
Yeah, if will it search by city or just zip code?
I have no idea. You'll have to find out.
Why do you want Sacramento
I've
so
only
bad?
done
I don't know.
zip code.
I was thinking of an area in California.
I think the only California zip code I know is 90210, but that's because of a TV show.
Yeah, I just want to see a couple different
that.
states to see what
that.
that looks like. Yeah,
So that's life-saving work right there in the middle.
yeah, incredible.
Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas.
Look at that. That is a ton.
Yeah, go
Chicago.
Texas.
Yeah,
Yeah. Chicago?
that's awesome.
Yeah, we partner
So
with a number of those.
There are more resources out there, and this is what I'm talking about. Is like
Yeah.
even pro-lifers. I think part of it's because we don't know that these exist.
Right.
This is a fantastic resource that will make sure that we plug this. Maybe not just even in the description, but maybe even make a resource article because this is awesome. That's
It's
a ton of
great
resources.
tool. It's
Yeah,
a great
that
That's
is
a ton of help.
That is an absolute ton.
Yeah, I love that.
Now, you mentioned the income stuff. So they're talking about 2014 to 15 fiscal year. Out of 1.29 billion in revenue, 553.7 million was reimbursement from the government
Wow.
for care like Medicaid, Medicare, whatever services Planned Parenthood provided.
And that was before the uptick. Their number 2 revenue generator right now, according to what I read recently, is distributing hormones. So
Which type of hormones?
Planned Parenthood is a source for hormones for gender transition.
Really?
Okay. So puberty blockers?
Yes.
It's almost like Planned Parenthood really likes making money. They like to make money.
Well, it's also like they're going to sterilize and kill off their entire population of customers.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Planned Parenthood is like obviously most pro-lifers know this. If you don't know this by now, you should. About Margaret Sanger.
Eugenics.
Yep, she was also trying to get rid of the black race. That was her thing. That was her goal. That's how she planned everything. So it's one of the most racist based, biggest organizations out there.
Right up there with the KKK. They just
honestly though
don't have government funding,
but they just hide in plain sight though. That's
presence.
what's a shame is that they're in plain sight. They don't even have to hide it. They don't even have to hide it.
No, not at all.
And
But
it's shameful.
every day we get up and we do what we do. We love women well and save their preborn children and celebrate life at every stage.
Yeah.
And, at the end of the day, a lot of people think it's a political issue. I applaud you guys for having this conversation because a lot of people don't like to, even though it did raise an awareness significantly after Dobbs, for sure.
I'm sure it did.
People are talking about abortion that don't want to and normally wouldn't. Okay,
Yeah.
so I applaud you for tackling this. But it's not a political issue. It is the greatest human rights abuse of our time. Mm-hmm. And so our approach to this is from a position of justice. It's from a position of compassion. It's from a position of real inclusiveness.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Of real tolerance. Of saying, you know what? Regardless of the circumstances of your conception, regardless of who your mom is or what her socioeconomic status is, you're valuable. Yeah. Every single human being is valuable and worthy of dignity and respect that we can't even begin to measure, bearing the image of God. Mm-hmm. And so embracing that image of God in every single person, celebrating the beauty and the goodness of every single life, that's a positive message. That is the message of the pro-life movement. And that is what we live out all day, every day, as we care for women and their preborn children.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying it's not a political issue because it really isn't. And we even touched on a couple of subjects where it's like we're trying to get conservatives on board. You're trying to get them on board for employers to care for the mothers. So you're trying to get that maternal leave, which historically conservatives have not been in favor of. That is more of the progressive movement. And with things like that and paternal leave as well, which is really not either party. They're not really pushing for it on either side. But
I know Pete Buttigieg. He got some maternal leave though. We won't talk about that.
But the point is that there are different areas. There's more aspects to it than just abortion. That comes down to fixing abortion. And a lot of the left's arguments about why abortions should exist is because of that lack of care, we'll say, for women. Exactly. And the lack of support for mothers. And there are some legitimate areas that are lacking and could be restructured to help more. And if we were to restructure them, then we start actually chipping away that argument for abortion at that point. Exactly. But it is a multi-party and a multi-problem. It's not just abortion. It's not just, pro or anti. It brings the mothers into it. And you guys are very women and mother focused, which is great because that's where all of this stems. This is where all of it comes from.
We are. I would love it. Of course, our number one thing is we want governments to act to protect preborn children, at the earliest stage. Okay, mm-hmm. that is our position. But in addition to doing that, wouldn't it be great if everybody got out of their corners where they're most comfortable and had conversations?
Whoa, this is radical. I don't know if we can do this.
And actually talked about what we can do to protect women, which we're, very active also on the front with the chemical abortions, and fighting against this deregulation and disregard for the health and safety of women. But what can we do circumstantially also to address those circumstances that are making her feel like she needs to make this choice? And, at the end of the day, guys, in the political world, I hate to say this, solutions don't make headlines.
Mm. Well, it's because bad news always makes
bad news makes headlines, and solutions a lot of times it's you don't send in an email saying, hey, if you're a candidate or elected official, hey, I came up with a solution, donate here. Yeah. It's more like the world is ending if these people get control, donate here.
Yeah.
You see what I'm talking about? But we've got to be willing collectively as a society to get away from that polarization and to say, hey, let's talk. Let's find the things that we can work on together to make people's lives better and to make unexpected pregnancy something that societally we can walk alongside someone rather than saying that she only has one option.
I agree with that. There's not much to add. That's what we're here for, is to try to build some civil discourse. And at the end of the day, I want to be able to talk to people that lean more pro-choice and just ask, are you so dedicated to your point of view that you don't want to see women who choose life have resources? Very simple question, and that's a question. And that's a question that they have to answer, and asking it not as a gotcha, but more of a genuinely I want us to work together. I won't lie. I think that I'm right on the pro-life issue. Right. I think I'm right on it. And I don't have an issue with that. But I think to a certain extent, and kind of what I think I was going to talk about a little bit in the beginning, but it doesn't really matter that much. But most people, I feel like most Americans are not that radical on abortion in the sense of they want it up to 40 weeks, which is insane. Any normal person's no, this is not good. Right. I hope that their logic never makes it to 20 weeks and below, but most of them are right in the middle. So there can be some middle of the road conversations that can maybe eventually lead a bit more pro-life, but it really does frustrate me that we've become so polarized, and it really bothers me that I'm told that I hate women, which is so weird. It's so strange because I am a woman. It's just right. I like it when men say that. It's no, I don't know if you.
People love to fling those insults, and we want to put labels on people, and we want to stereotype people because of their political beliefs or their beliefs on this issue.
And that's the problem with me. It's I think I give people who are pro-choice the benefit of the doubt and say, I think you mean well in this situation, but I don't think you have all the facts. But when it comes to pro-life, this is just my feel on it, is that I think that the mudslinging happens much faster, and that they assume that you're evil, that you hate women, that you want them to suffer, and all these things. And it's like, wait, whoa, we barely got a chance to talk. I just kind of went on a rant there. It really bothers me.
If you look at the attacks on pro-life pregnancy centers, even since the Dobbs decision.
Yeah, no, I saw those making the rounds.
Just the disregard, by the media, and those who would be responsible for prosecuting these attacks, just a disregard for, the safety and the dignity of those people that work in that movement. That's just indicative of a greater problem. But at the end of the day, we can't control what somebody else does, but we can control our heart and our mind, and we can pray for the right demeanor. And if I'm talking to someone who is on the other side of this issue, even if it's someone who is out front on this, and sometimes we run into each other in legislative building, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I see them as a person first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. And pray that I will always see it that way and not define someone by their position on this. But we can seek to be compassionate, be positive, be clear, to fight for what is true, but do it in a way that is winsome and respects the individual that we're having a conversation with. Wouldn't it be great if we could see more of that?
That would be wonderful.
It would be.
I like the idea of, I like the word used, though, winsome. I just like that word. I want to be more winsome.
Winsome.
I like that. But I feel like we're kind of making our way to a close here. Are you getting the same vibe, Connor?
Yeah, I think so.
I think in the same vibe. Is there anything else that you would want to say that we didn't get a chance to cover before we kind of make our way to a close?
I think we've covered just about anything. I would say, in this post-Roe world, our work is only beginning. Mm-hmm. Okay, this was not the end.
Oh, yeah.
By any means. Our work is only beginning. And what we can do is keep moving forward, helping women with unexpected pregnancies, loving on them, loving on their preborn children. Remember the option line. If you'd like more information about Human Coalition, you can go to humancoalition.org and watch some of those client stories I was telling you about and see some of our babies. It's wonderful to see their faces.
Yeah. And I got my Human Coalition Christmas card, and I was like, oh, look, it's
right. Yes, yeah, that was a good one. He was born on Christmas Day.
Oh, that makes sense. That's why they put him on there.
Yes. Actually had a baby born on Christmas Day. And
my brother was born on Christmas Day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not that fun. It's not that fun.
But yeah, his mom, her story is actually on video, on the website. And
that's awesome.
So we celebrate life. And it's a real privilege to do that. And so we invite you to join us. We thank you for your support for the pro-life movement. And we're excited about what's ahead.
Yeah, we're definitely excited to see what it's like. I think it'll take... I think the laws will probably change quicker than the generation's minds. But I look forward to seeing, what my kids or grandkids grow up thinking about abortion and hopefully their lack of experience with it.
Yeah, that would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because we're several generations removed from actual slavery in the country.
Right.
But I mean, the discrimination continued on. So I'm curious to see how abortion will phase out. The laws will be first, but I mean, there has to be some sort of heart and mind change in order for the laws to get there. But that doesn't just because it's a law doesn't mean everybody's going to fall in place all of a sudden. And I think it'll take a couple of generations for it to really phase out and for children, grandchildren to look back and think, what on earth were they thinking back then? How could they do that?
I love that historical perspective. Nelson Mandela said one time, there's no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way it treats its children.
Mm.
So wouldn't it be amazing that our kids and grandkids are living in a society that values every single human life?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be.
That's a whole nother can of worms that, yeah. I mean, we really appreciate having you on. I don't even know if we even said your full name at the beginning, but you're Julie Emmons from Human Coalition.
I am.
Okay.
You guys went over a whole thing on how to pronounce her name.
Yeah. But obviously, like, we're going to do promo for you and people will know your name. And so it'll all work out. Yeah. But we'll put all the links in the description. And I think with that option.org, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Optionline.org, yeah.
That's incredible. We will definitely be promoting that as a resource to our
save lives,
to our very small audience, but I hope that it spreads around and that people learn about it because I think it's fantastic. But that is the end of our episode. Make sure that you follow us on Instagram and Facebook to see what we're up to. Make sure you follow Human Coalition as well to see what they're up to because like Julie said, they're growing. They're growing a lot, and we feel excited that you're even sitting here with us, even talking to us about this issue. For sure.
It's my honor.
We're, I don't know. I'm excited. I just get excited for anyone that's like, yeah, we'll sit down. Like, really? You'll sit down with us? That's awesome. But my privilege. And this will be on Spotify, YouTube, all the places. You know where they are. Yeah. I don't need to tell you.
No, thank you so much, Julie, for coming out and driving out here to come and talk with us and
You're welcome.
Sit down.